Welcome to another episode of You Had Me a Cheese, where my girlfriend, Venus, and myself, Eclipse, explore the many different aspects of the human experience. We are here with our selection of cheeses, and Venus has a glass of wine ready, so feel free to bring your favorite snack and join the party. Hey listener! I'm glad you joined us. Today's conversation is one that is both uncomfortable yet important, and we are going to chat about loneliness and isolation. We're going to talk about moments of deep loneliness, what were the contributing factors, what were the challenges we faced, and what we did to help ourselves overcome them. It feels a bit weird to say I hope you enjoy it, but I do hope that you find something valuable to take from it. Venus.
Hi, Eclipse.
How are you doing?
I'm actually quite excited.
Are you excited? I mean, it's a challenging conversation to have.
Yeah, it is, but it's also an important one. Loneliness and isolation is something that we have all struggled with in our life. And I think it's important that we talk about it and share our experiences and how we have overcome it and what we have learned through that difficult time.
I agree. I think everybody struggles with it at some point. It's a vicious cycle because the less we talk about it, the lonelier we're going to be.
Yeah.
Because actually, it's by talking about the loneliness that we feel less alone.
That's quite powerful.
I think it applies for many things. But the thing is that when you're feeling this isolated and when you're feeling lonely or when you're in a very dark place in your life, it's just really hard to reach out. It's a type of catch-22. The one thing that you need to do in order to help yourself out of the situation that you're in is the thing that is the hardest to do from that particular place.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in it and in that moment, it's almost impossible to see the light or to be able to kind of see above yourself. You're very much inside yourself. And it sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
Do you remember a time where you felt really lonely and isolated?
There are many occasions, I would say, but the one that was the most severe was during COVID, during the lockdown.
Tell me about it.
We got sent to work from home, and there was another challenge. And while I am grateful that I was able to work, because some people weren't able to work and they struggled financially and they were scared. While I was grateful for that, it also hurt me in a way because I couldn't process what I needed to process because I was too busy dealing with work. And with my particular job with IT support, suddenly we had everybody calling because they had issues working from home themselves, and they called their IT for help.
Which was you? Which
was me and the team, and I don't think it's ever been that busy since and before COVID. It was full day just dealing with work, and the issue was that I was stuck in a mental space because I couldn't process and deal with things because I was busy.
The mental space that you're talking about, was that something that existed pre-lockdown, or was that created by the lockdown?
I would say it existed and it just got magnified.
Do you remember what made you feel isolated before lockdown started?
Well, I guess I was dealing with the whole gender issue, and this time was crucial for me in figuring this out, and I felt very much stuck trying to process who I was and what that meant. And when lockdown hit, it took my choice away and it took my ability away to connect with people in a
way that was meaningful to you.
Yeah, which was physical, in a physical kind of way. It was suddenly you couldn't meet up with people. That was a big issue. And it was this choice that was taken away, this ability that really hurt. And that meant I couldn't even see my friends, And while at that time I did live on my parents' property in a unit behind their home, and I'm grateful that they were there, it just wasn't enough for me.
You needed a bigger support network.
Yeah.
I think most of us wanted more.
Yeah, and just to touch back on during the workday, I remember screaming basically in frustration that I was stuck with this job, but my mind was not there. I could have used time off, and what happened was the exact opposite. And so that just amplified my loneliness and the feeling of being isolated in that moment.
Yeah, and lockdown was quite long.
Yeah.
Did your employer provide any type of support? Any acknowledgement of the fact that this lockdown is really challenging? It's something that we haven't dealt with before.
It's actually kind of hard to recall that specifically, and I would say there would have been acknowledgement and there would have been communication about it being a challenging time. And they did provide access to a limited amount of therapy sessions, but at that time I didn't take them up on that.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When your daughter's learning how to drive and says,
But can I drive?
you say,
Híjole. Here we go.
but what you should say is something that helps protect your ride.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And that's where State Farm comes in, to help you choose the coverage you need, so you can relax until you hear,
Can we pick up my boyfriend?
Wait, what?
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
Do you remember what it felt like? In those moments, you're working from home, you can't go out and meet anybody. You're only in the bubble with your family, which is basically just your parents.
Yeah.
And you're overworked.
Yeah.
Because as an IT support person, everybody needs you.
Yeah. We were basically getting more calls than we could handle. And so people kept calling back and just creating more calls for us, being annoyed that we haven't sorted their issue out. But the reality is we've taken 100 calls since they've called or something in a short span of time.
Do you remember what it felt like?
The word rage comes to mind.
What were you angry about?
Being stuck, the road's closed, and wanting to meet people, but I can't. Wanting to go out and do social things, and I couldn't. Not having time to slow down.
Did you consider asking for time off?
I almost quit. There was no option to take time off. They needed everybody, So it was either you work or you don't.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Do you remember how you felt?
I felt like a grenade about to go off. It was a feeling that I've never experienced. Quite self-destructive.
In what way were you self-destructive?
In that moment, it didn't feel like there was a way out of this feeling. It was constant. I would wake up with it, and I would go to bed with it. I would brush my teeth, and in my mind, I would be angry. All sorts of things come up to the surface in those states of mind. And it took quite some time after to heal from that.
So did you feel that way from the beginning of the lockdown to the end of it?
I would say it did get better during the lockdown, but more towards the end of it.
What do you think changed?
I think I started to express myself more. I was able to process things more by that point about my transgenderness and what that looked like.
Was this before or after you realized that you were transgender?
It was after. We went into lockdown and I wanted to get onto HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And that threw a spanner in the works because it got delayed more than a year, basically.
Mm.
And so there was that too, in the frustration. I felt like it hindered me from progressing in my discovery.
I can understand that. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You've done a lot of work.
Plenty more to go.
Always. Always work in progress.
Yeah.
So during this time, you're working really hard, you're feeling lonely and angry and stuck.
Hmm.
Do you reach out to your friends at all?
Yeah. I reached out to my friends. We were in contact. But I think at that point, I didn't know how I needed to communicate to ask for support or help. The times I did, it fell on deaf ears. And basically during that time, because of lack of any support, when I did manage to ask, we grew apart. Or I distanced myself from them.
So when you say that when you reached out, it fell on deaf ears, what does that look like?
They wouldn't really respond in a way which made me feel any better. There was no support from them. So at that time, we had a mutual friend, and this mutual friend would come and see the friends I would reach out to, even though they shouldn't have. And when I asked for the same visit, let's say, I wouldn't get that. It made me feel like I wasn't as important to them.
Yeah. And you were living really close to them at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. And they didn't say why or anything like that?
No, but I found out later what they were up to. They gave more importance to getting drunk than to come and see their friend.
I'm sorry.
All right.
It does really suck when people show us intentionally or unintentionally that we are just not as important as we thought we were.
Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. It was like a stab in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just made us grow apart. More from my side, I just distanced myself in that.
Understandably so.
Yeah, and in that time, I really realized the importance of your people around you, and I made a conscious decision that I want someone better than that in my life.
So what changes did you implement in order to shift your life towards people who are more like-minded?
With this particular group, it was like the first time in number of years we didn't spend New Year's together because I chose to go see someone else who does treat me with kindness. And they took that almost like I did something wrong, or did something to them.
You chose somebody else above them.
Yep, I sure did. Very intentionally.
How long were you friends for?
I would say 15 years.
That's a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't matter much if they don't treat you well.
Yeah. And at that point, I saw that because it has happened earlier in life in different ways, but this kind of same behavior of you're not as important to me. Whilst I always showed up.
What I think is really interesting about this is that you had friends and you actually did reach out to them. And yet within this group of friends, you still felt really alone.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing, really.
Yeah. And during that time, I realized the importance of boundaries. And when I put boundaries in place with this friends group...
Let me guess. They did not like it.
No.
What did they say?
First of all, it was like, how could you? I thought we were closer than this.
Interesting take.
Yeah. And when I did say what my needs were moving forward, they took it on board. And for about next 2 weeks, they showed me that they can do it.
And then revert.
And then revert back. Yep.
Cancel edits.
Yeah, and it just got more toxic. I felt that my growth as a person somehow attacked them in some way or made them feel less than.
Mm.
And they grew us apart.
So you mentioned that towards the end of the lockdown, things improved. What changed?
I would say I healed in a way. I wanted more for myself. I wanted better friends. I wanted a different environment. I wanted to be me. And I feel a bit less stuck by the end of lockdown in who I am inside. And even though it was a small amount of progress in that department, that was quite huge for me to be able to express my gender more.
So what I'm hearing from you is that the more aligned you felt with your identity and within your body, the less lonely you felt.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Yes, it was a step forward in that direction. To not feel as lonely. The feelings that cause loneliness went away a little bit because it gave me hope. It gave me hope that I can express my identity. It gave me hope that when lockdown is over, I can start a new me, a life that I can start to be myself more. And so while it was still isolating because I wasn't having physical contact with people in person and having that social interaction, it did give me hope and did make me feel better. And maybe by that time, I learned to cope a little better being in isolation.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that I wish we didn't have to learn how to cope with.
Yeah.
But that was just a reality.
Yeah. I love solitude, but it was almost like a forced solitude. And when you don't want it, it's not great.
Do you think the difference between loneliness and solitude is the choice?
I think choice plays a big part.
So once you made the choice to disconnect from these people, did the connections that you made on Tinder make you feel less lonely even though you were still in lockdown?
It did. I think talking to someone new and with somebody maybe that I connected on a different level that I haven't kind of had before made a big difference. So talking to other women and having more kind conversations and also hearing from someone else who's going through tough times and lockdown.
Boy, aren't we all.
Yeah.
So when you look back at it, at that time in your life, what would you tell Venus to help her through that process?
I will tell her that better things are coming and to reach out for new connections as soon as it felt comfortable to do so and to smoke less weed.
Yeah.
That was my worst time of it all.
No shame, everyone. If you are a weed smoker, we accept you just the way that you are.
100%.
It's just for Venus, life is better without it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Thank you for being so curious and
Always.
patient with me.
I try.
You know, I love you.
And I love you.
So, Eclipse,
Yes.
we touched on a few things about me. So tell me, is there a moment in your life that you can recall where you felt the most isolated or lonely?
Yeah, there's one moment. I mean, there's been plenty moments in my life where I felt lonely, let's be honest.
Yeah, of course.
But there was one particular moment in my late teens, early 20s, where I felt really alone. And the main narrative in my head was, A, nobody is going to understand, and B, nobody cares enough to even bother to listen. I think the way it was phrased in my head was that nobody will do for me what I do for them. I had this very limiting belief, and so I didn't even try. I didn't reach out to anybody about the things that were hurting me. I didn't have deep conversations. I wasn't vulnerable, because if you believe that nobody is going to be there to catch you, then what's the point? The one thing about me, about my psyche, that stems from my upbringing is that the people who were meant to be there for me in my teenagehood, the people who were meant to support me, who were meant to protect me, who were meant to care for me, did not. And so when I was 15, it kind of solidified in my brain that the only person that I could rely on was myself, which was crucial for me at that time. I needed to know that nobody is there for me because I needed to get myself out of the situation that I was in. But the thing is that once you're out of that situation, having this limiting belief doesn't actually serve you.
So when you were 15, so the people who were meant to protect you didn't?
No, they did not.
And you were on your own?
I was on my own, but there was one person who I could rely on. However, we spoke years, if not a decade later, and this person said to me that they weren't aware of what was actually happening. And I think that's the source of loneliness. Sure, this person helped me a lot and was there for me, but they didn't actually know what I was going through. I was going through that alone.
So you're going through your teenage years with this limited belief that you mentioned. When did you notice that there was something holding you back?
During my teenage years, I was existing with this limiting belief, but during that time, it served me. It served me because it kept me safe from people who could have abused my vulnerability. And so I wasn't vulnerable. Sure, my relationships were not as close as they could have been, but when you are in survival mode, what you really care about is protecting yourself, keeping yourself safe.
So you're going through your teenage years with this limited belief, and it served you.
Correct.
What happens when you realize it's holding you back?
Good question. I guess that's the moment when I started questioning it. Is this the truth? I was feeling very lonely and isolated, and I don't even know what exactly was happening, but in general, it was always survival mode. And I craved connection like nobody's business. But how can you connect if you don't let anybody in? And I would listen to friends and I would support them, etc. But I guess they thought that I didn't need support. That's actually a problem that still follows me to this day. That people look at me and think that I have enough support in my life and I don't need care or kindness.
Everyone needs care and kindness.
Everybody needs care and kindness. I'm not quite sure what it is about my face that says I don't need you, but I do. I do need people to care for me. And at that point, my anxious brain was telling me, don't trust anybody. We've trusted people before. We thought people would protect us. They didn't. These people are going to be exactly the same. And I'm not a religious person, but I took a leap of faith. Because nothing changes if nothing changes. And in that moment, I knew that maybe people will let me down or just not want to support me or not want to be my friend. But if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And so I already didn't have the thing that I wanted, which was care and support around vulnerability that I wasn't allowing anybody to see. And so I did it.
What did you do? What is your leap of faith?
It might sound small or insignificant to some people, but I shared what was weighing on me and reached out to people and just showed them that I am not always strong, that I don't always know what to do.
And how did that make you feel when you finally shared?
It shattered everything that I thought up until that moment.
Did you find being vulnerable scary?
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
I was petrified. It's probably not even something that you can explain in words as to why it's so scary.
Yeah.
But it was. And I think that was a very pivotal moment for me.
Yeah.
And an exercise in how to dissolve loneliness. Because it's not about how many people are around you. I had friends. That's not what the issue was. It's that we weren't connected in the way that I needed. When I look back and I think, what would have happened if I didn't take that leap? If I listened to the anxious voice in my head? If I believed that everybody else is going to be exactly like the people who failed me when I was a teenager? I wouldn't be able to have the connections that I have today. It's as simple as that. And with that said, I still do have moments where I feel lonely, especially if people that I trusted make me feel unseen and unheard. That hurts like a ton of bricks. It hurts in a way that I cannot explain. It's like there's a hole in your chest, and every time you try to breathe, you ache more because breathing in spreads it.
Would you say that the experience from your teenage years, going through life, craving connections, and finally sharing with people what was weighing on you, having people around you who you trust, and when the trust is broken, it almost takes you back to that time when the trust was broken?
I don't know if it takes me back to that moment, but I think it shatters me because I'm surrounded by so many amazing people that I feel so safe that it comes out of left field. The people I'm fortunate to be surrounded by are so kind and so caring that when I go into the world and I see how people communicate just as a normal communication type thing, and how people can be so unkind in little ways as well as big ways, it takes me back. I'm just like, I forget that the reality outside my bubble is a reality of unkindness many times.
Yeah, and a lot of people are stuck in there.
Yeah, and I really don't want that.
No.
For people. And I guess my point is connections are walk. They don't come out of thin air. And they are not maintained based on nothing. You have to put in the effort.
Yeah.
But, and this is the good part, it is possible. So if there are people out there who feel like nobody understands them and nobody knows who they truly are, and nobody is going to be there to catch them when they fall, and nobody is there to protect them, what I would say is nobody is there yet. And it might take time and it will take work.
Yeah.
But it is possible. And it's possible to do this shift. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be 100% because there isn't 100%. But there are kind and caring people in this world.
So many.
So many. So many wonderful people that will want to learn what your needs are, will want to listen to you when you're in dark places.
Yeah, they'll pull you out, or try to at least.
Or just sit with you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can't really change the reality and the reality sucks. But having somebody there just sitting next to you and just being there with you, sometimes that changes everything.
Yeah, saying things out loud when someone hears it is very healing rather than being stuck in your mind.
Yes, But also, I think there are certain situations, especially when gaslighting is involved, you need somebody to be there to contradict the gaslighting. Otherwise, the gaslighting becomes your line of thinking.
Yeah.
And it can solidify. And that's really horrible. Because at that point, it doesn't matter if the person who did the gaslighting is there or not.
Yep.
Because your brain will do it for them. And so I am really appreciative of my friends who say things that I know I would say to other people, but it is hard for me to say to myself, and help me to see that I'm not alone and that I'm a good person.
The mind is a powerful thing, and sometimes we are our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And it's nice when we have someone who will remind us of our qualities, of why they appreciate us.
I agree.
And when you're lonely and you're stuck and you're going through things in your mind constantly, as irrational as it may be, having someone like that really makes all the difference.
Yeah. I'm really fortunate to have you in my life.
And I'm really fortunate to have you in my life.
And I'm really grateful for the support network that we have.
Me too. I'm grateful you remind me every day how much you appreciate me and why.
You are amazing.
I think you're amazing too.
So, is there anything that you would take from our conversation today? Anything that stood out to you?
As difficult as it may be, as terrifying as it may be, and as scary as it may be, not reaching out may just be the thing stopping you from moving forward with more ease. Is there anything that you would take away from this conversation, Eclipse?
I think the thing that really stood out to me is the power of making ourselves feel better within our body. I think sometimes when we are in dark places and we feel really lonely, we don't really have the energy or willpower to do anything that will make us feel better. Maybe there's something that we can do, even if we're under lockdown, even if we're on our own, even if there's nobody we can reach out to come see us. Maybe we could do something on our own to make ourselves feel better. For one person, it may be getting some popcorn and ice cream and watching a movie. For somebody else, it might be doing their own makeup and taking a few photos of a cute outfit.
Yeah.
Maybe read a book. I guess the one thing that stood out to me is that even if we are on our own, perhaps we can't change the situation. You know, we can't magically get new friends and we can't magically solve the COVID issue.
Sure.
But perhaps there's something that we could do within our own environment to make things a little easier, to make things a little better, and to set ourselves up to get better.
Yeah.
And to feel better within ourselves.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing with me.
And thank you for sharing with me.
My pleasure. We have reached the end of our episode and hope you have enjoyed your snack as well as our conversation. If you liked our podcast, we would truly love for you to leave a comment, rate our show, and share it with anyone who would benefit from our conversations. And if you didn't like our podcast, then don't worry about it.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No